My technology integration project was on a Web 2.0 site called StoryBird.com. It focuses on writing and reading for students, and I decided to do my lesson on narrative writing specifically. Problems with narrative writing that I found in my own classroom is that children are often struck with a writer's block because they have limited experiences actually writing stories. Although naturally creative, we do not often give students tools in order to use creative thinking when writing. Also, many students don't get the feedback that they need on every writing assignment because I've had many students that wait in line or want me to read part of their stories, and I just can't get to every student every day as I wish I could. And they begin to lose interest in their writing, or they find it difficult to move on if they're stuck and really need some help. Also, a lot of times just the student who wrote the writing and then the teacher reads a final copy of writing that's produced, so students don't get affirmation that their work is valued by other people. Many times younger children that don't come from privileged homes, they don't have access to computers with a keyboard, and with this new Georgia Milestones testing, they're going to need to type a great portion of this test, as more and more students are going to be able to, or actually going to need to, take the test on the computer and actually type out part of their responses and answers. And traditional paper and pencil writing does not help students to practice this typing. So StoryBird.com is a Web 2.0 tool that, according to their website, is a platform for writers, readers, and artists of all ages. The tool allows teachers to create an account and add a class by adding individual students, creating assignments with due dates, giving feedback to student work, and evaluating the work. Students get their own login, and they're able to read stories created by people across the entire world. Students can also create visual stories by choosing artwork from animators, artists, and illustrators, and they use the images to put the pictures into words while developing their stories. So it actually, instead of writing and then producing an illustration that represents the writing, they're going the opposite way. They're looking at an image and making a story out of that image for each page. Students can view assignments given by the teacher. They can see the due date and a description of what they are to do. And I'll give a quick example of what StoryBird looks like from the teacher's login. So here you can see is my class. These are the different work samples that students have created, and as you'll see, after I did the example lesson plan with students, I had one student that continued to actually want to get on and create these stories on her own. Here you can see the different students in your class. You give them a username, you can put their actual name, and then they have a temporary password, and then you can change it if you want. So for me, I changed them all to just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to make it easier for the students to remember. Here you can see is the assignment that I gave for students. I put the due date. I gave a quick description for what I wanted them to do. It says you and your partner will choose illustrations to help write a story. You'll first choose the illustrations and then write a story that follows what is happening in the images. They were told to use their creativity, imagination, use descriptive language, dialogue, and sequence of events. Now I'll show a quick example of how to use this tool, and it's the same for students when they're writing. If I were to do this assignment, I would first start by choosing the images, and you're just going to click on one image that kind of captures your attention, and then it'll show you different images that have been created by that artist. So if I were to, and you can also search up here different tags. If you want to write a story about cats, you could type in cats and find images that have cats in them. So if I'm going to choose one, and I can choose to use the art, or I could go back and look at more. I can see the different images that this illustrator or artist has. So if I'm going to use this art, I choose the type of book. I think I'll do a picture book because that's what the description was. And then here you just drag your art. You can choose where you want your art to go, one side of the page, top, bottom, and then add your text. And continue for the next page. For the next page, you have to look at the different pictures and illustrations created by this artist. You simply drag in the one you want, and then you add your text. And again, if you change your mind on a picture, you simply drag a new one into its spot. When you're finished, you just come to the menu. You can publish it, you can save it and close it. For my lesson, I had students actually work together, so here's where they, before they even began writing, they invited a collaborator, and you can choose somebody from your class. And then you just send the invite, and when they log on, they can see that invitation. So it's a very kid-friendly and easy tool to use. Alright, StoryBird can help students when they're doing these narrative writings because the teacher can actually conference with the individual students through the assignments. They can leave comments that the student can read when they log on. So easily a teacher could do this after school when they have time. Just log on, read through the different writing assignments that students have been working on, and add your comments that only those students can see. Also, when the student submits assignments, the teacher can log into StoryBird and find all the submitted assignments in one place. So it's not looking through a bunch of papers or folders that students keep writing in. It's all in that one place. And then again, they can provide that personal feedback and a letter grade as well for the students to see. Again, students get practice with these typing skills that they will use in future for writing assignments in high school, college, and the workplace that they don't get in traditional paper and pencil writing. Students also get affirmation for their work because they publish it online, and they can choose for either anyone to be able to read it, or which is public, or they can make it private so that only they can see it, or they can choose to have their class just see it. And they can also comment on each other's stories. They can leave a comment on any story. The teacher can set limits as to whether the comments are viewed by all, or if the teacher needs to read through them before everyone can see them. This tool works really well and covers all 4 of the C's. Creativity. Students use the images to imagine the stories and to think creatively about what is happening from image to image as they choose new ones for each page. They really had to use critical thinking because they need to decide on what happens next in their story based on the images provided. So they may have an idea about what they want to happen, but if they can't find an image that really shows that, they kind of have to, switch their focus and think critically about, okay, let me choose this image and what could be happening if I choose this image. Communication, like I said, they share their stories and can communicate with others, leaving those comments. And then the teacher as well provides communication, can make the assignments and give feedback for students. And they are able to read the published stories and can leave those comments for them. There is an option of the collaboration tool like I showed, inviting someone to collaborate or work on the same story together. So they can be working on different parts of the story and have their own screen that they're looking at. They're not sharing a computer or a piece of paper, so they can all be collaborating on that one story. And it's also a great tool for peer editing. So if you have written a story and then you invite someone to collaborate, then they can go in and view it and peer edit it, look for ways that might make it a little bit better. So for my lesson, like I said, I chose 4 children that will be in 3rd grade this fall. The children got into pairs, and they collaborated on a piece of writing using StoryBird. I gave a quick mini lesson using a wordless picture book so that students were able to get used to looking at images and imagining stories from those images. I did a quick modeling, like I did for you, of how to log in, how to start creating a story based on that assignment that I gave. And so students had that same narrative story assignment, and they worked with their partner after inviting one to collaborate to write a story. It took about 2 days. The first day I was with the students for an hour after giving, the quick mini lesson in modeling, and then they started working. And then the second day they finished up and began editing their story, and I was with them for about 30 minutes. And then after this, we were able to share our stories with one another. The results really exceeded my expectations with creativity. I saw a lot of deep thinking, creative thinking that I wouldn't have seen if the students hadn't had those images to kind of prompt and spark their imaginations. The two stories were very different, and this is what I found to be different than traditional writing assignments. As soon as students saw those pictures, their minds began thinking critically and creatively about the plot of the story they could write. It didn't take them long to get started, because once they saw a picture and chose one, they were able to think, okay, what's happening? What can I write about? And as they continued, they consistently had to choose from images created by the artist that they chose at the very beginning, so the plots were changing as they began writing. So they started with one idea, and it began to develop and change throughout the writing process. They were able to collaborate. I love how they had their own computer rather than trying to share a piece of paper or one device. The editing and proofreading process worked out really well, because students were able to notice things that their partners wrote that would look or sound better from their own screen and their own device. And students gained practice in typing and designing what their final book would look like. So this designing tool was really neat, as they created a cover, they decided what each page would show. So it was really like they were putting an actual book together. Here are the example stories that were created by the two different students. I can take you through one real quick. This one was called The Robot Invasion. Here's the cover. As you can see, they were very creative. They chose an artist that had pictures of like an alien, and it's about alien robots that come to Earth. So it's a very creative and funny story. They had no trouble figuring out how to do it, what to do. And I assessed them on actually like the same standards that they'd be assessed on if they were doing a paper and pencil narrative writing assignment. So it was very easy to transfer the same type of expectations for this tool as it is for the traditional narrative writing. And I realized that Web 2.0 tools can help students improve these typing skills and prepare them for the GMAT tests and other areas that they might be using typing in their future. It does require modeling, but once you really model it and allow students to explore, it was very beneficial. I would suggest allowing students to kind of explore before assigning a specific assignment, because a lot of my students just wanted to search and figure and kind of play with it a little bit before actually doing the assignment. So the next time I would have them have a little bit of free time in creating any kind of book that they wanted to or story. The collaboration issue, I think in my own classroom would be hard for students to collaborate on one piece of writing, because students kind of have that individuality, but I would definitely use the collaboration for the peer editing and revising tool like I did when they're finished drafting. Students were much more motivated to write using the tool, and it showed a lot of different writing styles and techniques from the students, because like I said, both stories were very different, and I saw a lot of creative and critical thinking using the tool. Some students were a little bit frustrated at first when they realized that there wasn't an image that fit what they wanted their story to be, so having to change their ideas and to find a new image and kind of work through their story kind of helped them to really think critically. And at first they were frustrated, but I think it was very beneficial for them to see that sometimes it's not exactly like we want it to be, and we have to fit our ideas to match what the image had. And that's it. I hope everyone will use StoryBird or kind of try it out. It's a great Web 2.0 tool for writing as well as reading, and I encourage everyone to give it a try.